Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Season 3 of the Fanfiction Tapes. I'm your host today, Maya, pronouns she, her, and today I am joined by...
The Dylan guy, hi.
And Cam, I'm back. Hello. My pronouns are she, they, whatever you want to use to customize your own adventure. I'm glad to be back.
And I am our producer, Ian. Pronouns he, him.
Today's episode, theme is a little bit of a mouthful, so stick with me. It is all about how just because something is in media doesn't mean the author is approving it. And what the f*** do we mean by this, you might be asking? I know, my parents probably are. There's an idea that's become more prevalent over the last couple of decades that if a certain piece of media, whether that's a TV show, a movie, a book, a podcast, your favorite form of daily entertainment, if it contains some type of deemed problematic event, incest, murder, gay people, etc., then it must therefore mean that the author approves of that and is endorsing that activity. And there's some origins of this that go back a long, long time. But even really, the Hays Code understood that just because a gay person shows up doesn't mean they're automatically endorsed.
I suppose, yeah, that is the general idea that you are presented with something in media and the people react and go, I can't believe they had a guy kill another guy. That means the author, the creator, the showrunner supports murder because the story contains murder. That is like in the simplest terms, and that's based on people's interpretation. Of course, a lot of people who have brains, as they're known, wouldn't react that way, but it's more like people who interpret media in that way will struggle to watch most things because there are elements in writing like sometimes we have to be more complicated. Even when the protagonist or the good guy does certain things, that doesn't mean the author is like approving of it or condoning it. Sometimes it's literally just a narrative beat. It's a storytelling device. It's whatever,
And of course, part of the reason we're mentioning this on this particular podcast is this has become pretty common in fan culture of one example that springs right to mind is shipping ships that are seen as problematic. In one case that I am thinking of here, and Cam knows exactly what I'm thinking about, of if a ship is slightly incestuous. If you ship those two, you must therefore approve of incest. Yeah. No.
Much like incest, this seems to hit pretty close to home for both of you.
Much closer for Cam than I kind of walked in. I'm that meme with, I think it's Donald Glover, where he walks into just kind of the apartment on fire. That's me. I'm Donald Glover. I walked in after everything's already happened. The entire room is on fire, and everyone has just hair trigger reactions.
Here's a bit of fandom history for folks listening. So we're talking about the Locked Tomb fandom. So if you haven't read but want to read all 3 of the books in Tamsin Muir's Locked Tomb series, maybe skip the next 3 minutes, because there's spoilers. So there's 2 characters in the Locked Tomb series. We meet them first in Gideon the Ninth. Their names are Camilla and Palamedes. And it's later said by the author of the series on Tumblr that the 2 of them are second cousins by relation, which was meant as this is a world-building tidbit to underscore how their society is dying. A very small but very loud portion of the fandom then proceeded to kind of engage in a lot of pearl-clutching behavior that led to bullying toward anyone who wrote fanfic drew fan art for or openly shipped Camilla and Palamides as a couple under the guise of, oh, you're shipping incest. This is such a horrible thing. I can't believe you do this. I can't believe you're in this fandom. However, it was laced with some pretty heavily biphobic rhetoric because a lot of the people that were kind of doing this hate campaign, for lack of a better phrase, were also openly promoting shipping Camilla Hecht with another character who's a woman, and that in and of itself is not a bad thing. Hear me plainly. I'm pro you ship whatever you ship. Whatever speaks to you, go for it. But the Venn diagram of people being biphobic about shipping Cam with a guy and the people shipping her with a woman instead was almost a circle. And multiples of my really close friends were harassed on AO3 in the comments of their Cam Pal fic. I was harassed on AO3 and on Tumblr to the point where I actually got an ask from an anonymous person, of course, on Tumblr telling me that they felt sorry for my sister because she was related to an incest shipper. That really made me angry. Eventually, it kind of died down. There's a lot more that goes into it, but I'm only going to talk about what I actually witnessed firsthand, which was that stuff happening to me. It died down, but to this day, I have a pretty long block list on Twitter, mostly because people are just that loudly against, or were rather that loudly against the ship. After Nona the Ninth came out, everything kind of shut down because in Nona the Ninth, it's made pretty clear to most people that they could reasonably be shipped as a romantic thing. But the harassment was not fun, and even I, who have been in fandom since I was 12 and I'm 26 now, it scarred me a little bit.
One old.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was a whole thing. Y'all can shut me up if this is not my time to go on a tangent. But I grew up in fan spaces, like I said, and I remember what I considered to be the fandom heyday that I was in, at least from 2012 to 2016, and there was a reigning sentiment. And it was the adage in a lot of even fanfic summaries and opening notes on AO3 and my forebear fanfiction.net, which was don't read. If you didn't like something, you just kept scrolling. And that was the fandom rule of engagement for me at that time in my spaces. And so when the Locked Tomb fandom did the whole Cam Pal thing that it did, I was really shocked mostly and taken aback because that was not a part of my lexicon in fandom. That was not a thing that I noticed. Sure, ship wars were a thing, but that was mostly people getting upset about shipping and not so much about content they deemed objectionable, then therefore immediately being bad. It was a really bizarre shift to encounter. And it was wild. So that's why I have a lot of opinions. Part of why I have a lot of opinions on this topic. Also as a person who studied storytelling and got a master's degree in creative writing, I have thoughts, but inside of you, there are two wolves, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things with that. And if my voice sounds slightly different, apologies. I just started bleeding, so there's tissue in places.
You good, bestie?
I'm fine. I'm not certain why it happened, but the show must go on.
Just ignore the knife Maya was probably playing with.
I was not playing with any knives. I don't have any knives here.
A knife?
They're elsewhere in the house.
No. Why does she have a knife?
I have several.
Oh, dear.
Cam, it was really inspiring hearing you talk about that, and a very... Second Cousins is quite, as I would describe, soft incest.
Mm-hmm.
And to freak out over that is amazing. It's the Queen, rot in hell. She was married to her second cousin, so I was good enough for her, good for me to read.
Yeah, they can legally second cousins can legally get married in most countries. It's not an amount of relation that's deemed genetically incestual. And the Locked Tomb series is a series full of content that many people would deem quote unquote objectionable. If you're talking about there's murder, there's torture, there's all sorts of things, and that's the thing that people chose to fixate on.
Yeah, because they've got an agenda. Let's get
it. And it was very much I was sitting here, and I will admit to thinking, I wonder if Camilla and Palamides were a WLW ship, would that still be the reigning sentiment? I don't know.
I mean, I think there would be objections to it still because you're gonna get polar clutches like that anywhere, but
Yeah.
it would have been different, and I don't think it would have been as vocal. And
Yeah, that's my theory,
kind of
too.
also something of, and that's simply because of the nature of the locked tomb and who it's marketed to. It's generally people are going to be there looking more for WLW.
Now,
Which I am fully in support of. I just also wish that folks could have just left us. Like, there were 5 of us or 6 of us in a corner shipping this ship. Like, please leave us alone.
I do want to, before we go too far, I do want to bring up like one of my sort of what I've seen recently. There is a manga / anime called Oshinoko. The main characters are a early 30-year-old doctor and a I think like preteen or maybe teen cancer patient who both die and get reincarnated as twin siblings. Would you believe that's the most
Interesting
popular?
premise.
Would you believe that they are the most popular ship in Japan?
Interesting premise.
Yeah, and there's a freeway ship war going on in the Oshinoko fandom between that, the sort of childhood actor rival because they also get into acting, and the girl who can mimic the sibling's parent, who tragically is no longer with them.
Huh.
Yeah. So, like, it's problematic on many reasons, but I love it. I love how messy it is. And that's what I think also content does not equal approval. Is like, sometimes you got to do weird stuff to be entertaining. And I love that. Like,
Sometimes you just need mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mess is fun to write. I don't want to see perfect, everything go right. Give me a big pig slop of mess.
So, before we go further and I get distracted again, because that will happen, it's the ADHD talking hour, folks. I just want to remind everyone listening that at the other end of the screen, the other person looking at the screen is a real human being. Harassment campaigns, mean messages, even if you think you're just, it's just one message, it's not that bad. Or no matter what you think they've done to deserve it, even if oh shit, I can't say that. Damn it. I have been forbade from saying such comments. I'll finish this then. There's still a human being at the end of the day. Don't be an asshole. Just move on. Honestly, it's probably healthier to just forget about it. If you see something that kind of upsets you, go find something else that won't upset you. You are going to be a happier person that way.
Don't read. Or watch.
Exactly.
Or listen. And like, to add on to that, as someone who's like a seasoned fandom veteran, this is only partially a joke. Like, I came across, it was a really illuminating Twitter thread the other day, talking about the mutual responsibility that fan creators and those who are engaging with the fan created content, I'm talking videos, edits, podcasts, fanfic, fan art, we kind of have a mutual responsibility to one another. It's my responsibility as a fanfic author to tag my content adequately, and it is the reader's responsibility to read the tags and engage responsibly. It's not my responsibility to tag every little trigger possible, because I don't know everyone's triggers. And it's your responsibility as an engager with that content to keep yourself safe and to disengage if you find yourself triggered. It takes 2 to tangle, as the saying goes. And, we all have a responsibility to do what we can, but it's never one person's responsibility, the creators, most fundamentally, to account for every single person's unique lived experience, because that's just impossible. So, that's why whenever I bring up any piece of media on this podcast, and pretty much everywhere, I say, your mileage may vary, browse responsibly, read responsibly, look up for yourself if you're okay with the content, because it's part of being responsible in a fan space. And, not being a jerk. If you get taken aback by something you don't like, it can be hard in the moment to not be reactive emotionally. And I'm not saying your emotions don't matter, because feelings do matter, but take some space, maybe interrogate and analyze why you feel that way before you start typing. And, like Maya said, remember there's people on the other side of the screen. We're all just humans, and the vast majority of us are trying our best to engage with something that we care about. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest fandom discourse I've seen and it comes from sort of this character is doing a bad thing. This character is clearly a superior choice. And that was Fire Emblem Three Houses, where you pick the house. You're at a school, you're going to be the teacher, and you pick which class you're going to teach. And they all come from different countries. You can either pick, like, the future empress, a future king, or a future, like, sovereign duke. And boy, howdy, did people freak out about that choice and then argue about those characters' things. Arguably, it made the game better, because there was a lot of fandom engagement, but also, geez, some fan wars.
That's maybe not the best fan engagement you could ever hope to receive.
Yeah, no, it's great when there's arguments between, oh no, this character is obviously the fascist. You only like her because she's a gay option, but she's a gay fascist empress.
They're all feudalists. They're not fascists. It's the wrong...
You have to play the game to fully understand it, Maya. Yeah, understand my pain and suffering.
Yeah, I don't think
Luckily-
I'll do that. I'll pass on pain and suffering for now.
Luckily, I chose the option which was like, well, the Black Eagles and the Blue Lions were fighting each other. I picked Golden Deer, and that was more about ending racism.
I don't know. I think there's I think a lot of times people, and I can't help but wonder if maybe some of it is like a vicious cycle of like, there's this, I've seen more and more in fandom. Let me start with that sentence correctly. I'm tired. I'm sorry. I see more and more these days in fandom, and I don't know if it's because I'm just more aware of it now, given my storied past in the Locked Tomb fandom now, or if it is actually more prevalent, but I see more and more people feeling like they have to really almost over-explain why they like certain characters. And sometimes it's just not that deep. Sometimes you just vibe with a character. Sometimes you like that they're deranged or whatever. And there's a lot of memes about that. Like, yeah, he's a war criminal, but he's also baby girl and whatever. Like, I'm thinking about all these different memes I've seen, but I can't help but wonder if for a lot of people, they feel like they have to defend why they like certain characters lest the internet firestorm come for them, when really it's not that deep. Sometimes you like what you like, you vibe with who you vibe with. And if that's the war criminal, cool. We've all been there. At least I have. Maybe it's just me. I don't know.
It's also that
I play Arma. I can't throw stones.
It's also like everyone has an opinion on everything these days. So you will get those people who oh, I like this thing, and they feel like it's their duty because no one else, this person got 0 replies on whatever they posted on wherever. But this person feels like it's their duty to go, actually, that's bad and you're problematic for saying you like it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think it's like the sovereign duty. Like, bro, are you paid by the hour for this?
What are you, a fucking cop?
One of my friends said something that I often repeat on multiple social spaces I'm in fandom, that most times fandom should just be you and your closest friends that you find in the larger fandom. I joke a lot about this, but it is kind of how it happened. When I made one of the groups of friends I have now, it was out of the Locked Tomb fandom. I just took the people that I loved and trusted and ran from the larger fandom.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. This podcast came about largely from us doing the same with Ruby.
Mm-hmm.
R.I.P. by the way.
Yeah,
It might not be
RIP.
dead yet.
I'm sorry,
we'll
y'all,
see.
for your suffering. I haven't watched any in a while, so I can't really, don't say things, but yeah, RIP.
Don't worry, it's on life support.
Okay.
Plug's
There's
not been
someone with a
fully pulled
defibrillator
yet.
running.
Yeah.
But like fandom, sometimes fandom is just you and your 5 closest friends in a Discord server together screaming.
Yeah. We
And, like,
we
I've
found
noticed
sorry, but in our Ruby server, which used to be open and a lot more popular, our enjoyment of like most things increased when we closed it off and kicked out everyone being an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean,
it's like,
it's technically still open, but like no one's going around recruiting new members.
yeah. But we also had it closed for quite some time.
It was closed for a while, but it was closed because of
Was that brigading?
no, it was closed because of 4chan.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
They left.
people posted screenshots from people talking on our server on 4chan.
From me, actually. It was specifically stuff that I said.
oh, wow, that sucks.
Yeah, and I mean, I maybe
I'm
wasn't
so sorry,
like
bestie.
I was maybe a little out of line. Like I deserved a little bit of clowning, but like
You are a
not
clown.
that.
No, that's ridiculous. I'm so
No.
sorry.
Yeah, it was a fun couple days. Fortunately, not the worst time in fandom I've ever had.
I remember like this is I might be jumping ahead in our outline. I apologize if that's the case, but I didn't want to forget about this anecdote. So, ironically, and I say ironically just because of the rap that this particular platform gets, it often gets a bad rap, and I'm not saying it shouldn't, but ironically, one of the best responses, or some of the best responses to kind of refuting the whole like content equals approval thought process came from folks who hang out in my space on TikTok, of all places. Which I did not expect, because oftentimes I see the opposite on TikTok, but I accidentally became like known as that guy on TikTok who talks about the Locked Tomb series, and so people would ask me questions and I'd answer, and it was a fun time. And someone occasionally people will come there and they're new and they hear me talking about Camilla and Palamedes as a ship and are like, they're second cousin, they're cousins. They don't often remember the distinction that they're second cousins, which is very different than their cousins. But I always get oh, they're cousins. Are you aware? And I'm like, yep. And here's why. But I've stopped explaining myself because A, I don't have the energy, and B, people that have been following me for a while usually get to it first. And at first, when I saw that happening, I was really worried that it was going to become like an internet firestorm sort of thing, because I don't tolerate bullying or harassment in my comments or in my name on TikTok or anywhere. And I was really worried, but it mostly, I would say 98% of the time, it's people refuting the undertone of content equals approval or does not, by them saying like, yeah, Cam's allowed to talk about whatever she wants. If you don't like it, you can block her. Also, they're second cousins. That's an important distinction. And if you are not someone who likes that content, you're in the wrong place, because Cam likes them, so move on. And it's like, it's slightly confrontational, but it's not unkind per se, and it's setting expectations without expecting everyone to fall in line with what is very much my personal preference, and I respect that a lot, and that was really cool to me to see on TikTok of all places.
One of the biggest things I always see about that is in media in general, we have a thing that is called like the weird, the one and wonderful stuff. Mm-hmm. And it comes in many forms, but one of the things that mostly catches the sort of like people's eyes a lot are and it's very prevalent. It's mostly a Eastern thing, comes from like sort of Japanese, but you get like, oh, this character who's really old but doesn't look it,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, would you be happy I always see this, and it gets like a lot of like traction, and some people are vehemently against it, and I'm just kind of like, whatever, I don't care enough. We're not doing anything weird.
Yeah, or like on the flip side, you get like, the fandom getting upset if you have an adult character who like looks really young.
Yeah.
And it's like, as someone who is 26 and regularly gets clocked as a 15-year-old in like the real human world, I'm like, this is silliness, guys. Please, come on. Age doesn't have a look. Nothing has one specific look in this world. Not age, not gender, not race, not anything.
I get carded multiple times anytime I try and get alcohol, or actually go places where alcohol is served.
It's been one of
It's
the
a little
things.
funny at this point. Um, but yeah, like people are not. There's not some universal. You can look at someone and go, ah, yes, I can magically tell this person is over 18. That's why like we have ID cards and why bartenders and such get trained to spot fake IDs because you can't.
Mm-hmm.
I am gesticulating.
And also, like,
but
when people in fandom are acting like the police like this, I'm like, why do you care? Like, can you not enjoy what you enjoy and leave everyone else alone? What is going on in your life, people on the internet, that you feel the need to police people to this level? It's always what I ask myself.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, do you want to go on, Maya?
yeah, I regularly come across stuff on like AO3 where it's like, I wonder why in the hell would anyone do this? This is hella gross. And I take a minute, I screenshot it, I send it to one of my friends, and I go, man, this is weird. And that's as far as it goes. We move on. We move on with our lives. I forget what the hell it was. Because, quite frankly, it is not the author's problem that I take issue with it. It's my problem. That is a me thing.
Yeah, and like it doesn't even necessarily have to be a problem. It's just that you just don't like it, and that's fine. It's not everyone's cup of tea, and that's chill. And like, I made a joke recently that like I wrote my first fic on my burner AO3 account for an anime that earned the tag "Dead Dove Do Not Eat," which if you're new in fandom or don't know what that is, you can Google it. And I was like, then I just tagged it for good measure. When I say that, I mean it, because it was very much a situation where, like, you know, those tags exist for a reason, which is there is content that is widely assumed to be quote unquote objectionable therein. You know, proceed with the knowledge that you're going to engage with that. And these things exist for a reason. I have fun on the internet.
We all do.
Cam, have you interacted much with the reincarnation trope? Especially an adult reincarnated as like a child or a baby.
It hasn't really crossed my my internet experience, despite how widely I read fic. I don't have any strong feelings about it, for or against, but I know that it's a trope that exists. I just haven't read a lot of it.
Yeah,
just
so
by happenstance.
Yeah, one of my brain rots is a light novel to an anime called Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. It's about like pretty old guy gets hit by a truck, as you do. It was actually the first story to use that for an isekai.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's the originator of Truck-kun. And he gets reborn in a new world. And he was like a shut-in, got bullied in school and all this when he was younger. So by the time he was 30, you know, just hated life. Dies after being kicked out of his house by his brother. And yeah, he gets to live a new life and experience everything he failed to experience in his previous life. But people will not shut up about how it's problematic that he is attracted to people his new life's age. Because mentally he's a 30-year-old man or whatever. I'm like, would that be a kind of a... The point of the story is he wants to relive his life.
Yeah.
You're missing the point. And like, look, once again, you can use that against him as a character. You know, if you want to say that is like a flaw, a character flaw, that yeah, he's a little immoral. But should that ruin the story for you? It's a really good story. No.
I know a lot of fanfic authors who would just lean into that, which isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying that is a bad thing. Like, you know, fiction can go one of many ways. Just saying.
Yeah, I have seen, and I have seen it a lot, like talk of this like Puritan sort of idea that a lot of people now have these days. And it's like, do you guys want stories where nothing bad happens and everyone's happy? That's not really a
thanks,
story.
America.
Yeah, that's just a sequence of events with, you know, happening and no
Also-
conflict, no nothing.
Character flaws make things interesting.
Mhm.
Don't take my word for it. Take Brandon Sanderson. Phenomenal author, very well selling. That's where
Well,
I got
like, if-
that.
Yeah, if you're gonna engage with fiction where you think nothing is problematic, the odds that someone else will find something that's problematic therein are pretty high, because guess what? Human beings, we're all nuanced and complicated, and we have different relationships with different things, and while I might find something problematic, the guy sitting next to me might not. And that is not anyone's moral fault or flaw or failing, it's just a difference in perspective.
Yeah. There's a series that I love, called The Dresden Files. This is a series that has had a big influence on me as a writer. I love the series to bits. I've read it several times. The main character is pretty sexist. And that's an intentional choice on the part of the author to work this flaw into the character. And there's also some parts where there's probably some coming from the author as well. But that doesn't ruin the story for me because of the way I grew up. Because I was assigned male at birth. It was something that I didn't mind as much. I mind it more now, shocker, but I can still read the series. I still enjoy it. But for other people, I know that it ruins the series for them, that they can't stand dealing with that. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Just live and
before
let
we
live.
run out of time... Yes, live and let live. Before we run out of time, how can our listeners respond to this type of content equals approval stuff when they see it in the wild?
Honestly, my advice is to just keep scrolling. Like, don't engage with people, because 9 times out of 10 they're doing it in bad faith. If you think that it's a genuine, like, oh hey, maybe this person is willing to listen and learn, maybe a dialogue, but 9 times out of 10 is just keep scrolling.
Yeah, that's honestly probably the best policy.
Yeah.
If
I sound
for
so
whatever
old and
reason,
tired when I say that.
I mean, it's a perspective born of experience.
I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Like, if generally just kind of move along. It's not your problem that someone else is wrong on the internet, however much it might hurt. But there are going to be cases where you actually do have to engage with it. Maybe it's someone who you kind of have to deal with them. Maybe it's someone who is actually in a place where, as kind of Cam mentioned, they're potentially open for dialogue. This is not someone who's coming at it in bad faith, but someone who has just kind of seen that and is running with it. Be patient, be gentle, and at the end of the day, even if they don't agree with you, as Cam said, live and let live. Now, before we run out of time with our extra special guest,
Oh gosh.
you are a very special guest, Cam.
Aw, well, thank you.
Do you have anything you'd like to promote to our listeners? We're doing this a little bit out of order, but I want to make sure we can get this in.
Sure, yeah. So I have a podcast that's semi on hiatus because I'm moving across the country, but it will be back eventually, soon, in like the next month. It's called Hey Besties, it's Cam from the Internet. You can find it wherever you get podcasts. I'm also the username Hello Cameo on both Twitter and TikTok, so if you want to see me go buck wild about the Locked Tomb and whatever anime my friend is putting in front of me, you can find me on 2 platforms and enjoy all of that. It's fun, I think. I'm having fun.
Well, at the end of the day, that is what matters.
So true, bestie.
So, Ian, do we have anything in the mailbag?
We do not have anything in the mailbag right now. So if you would like to reach out to us to talk about your own experiences with this content does not equal approval stuff, you can shoot us an email. Our address is fanfictapes@gmail.com. You can also leave us a comment on our YouTube channel. You can leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you get this podcast. We greatly appreciate that. You can also reach out to us on social media. We are on Twitter, and Maya runs that channel.
I do. We are at Fanfiction Tapes, capital F, capital T, no spaces, dashes, or other weird things to indicate 2 words, aside from the camel case. We post updates on there when episodes go live, and sometimes also other updates, like that we just finished planning out our season 4, and things like that. We might have other social media for season 4. I'll have to get around to that. So, our next episode will be about the quintessential lists of stuff from our cast. What's the shit you gotta read, listen, watch, etc.? I am and have been Maya.
And today she was joined by Dylan.
And it looks like Cam has had to run off. And I am Ian. Until next time, bye.